This rarely happens, but sometimes as surfers we just find something that makes everything easier. Today, I'm going to walk you through how I discovered the easiest possible way to get locked into the right position on the nose. And I'm telling you as someone who wishes they knew this a long time ago. This is a must-watch for anyone who's wanting to learn and get better at this, no matter the stage of surfing you're currently at. As time and time again, this appears to be one of the most complicated aspects of longboard surfing and nose riding.
Really good game changer. I think it's something that I'm going to use a little bit more as well.
Alrighty guys, so do I have the trick in store for you guys today? Let's go in and talk exactly about what we're going to be covering today and why it's so important and can help your surfing as well. So the background to this is, a little while ago I was having a session surfing one of my favorite point breaks. I was realizing that by doing a fade takeoff and actually coming to the bottom of the wave first, I was losing a lot of space to be able to actually get into the critical part of the wave to nose ride. I thought about my favorite surfers, and something that came pretty clear once I reviewed some of the footage is their positioning for the nose ride from the start of the wave. What they seem to be doing is, instead of dropping low, they actually from the pop-up got themselves in the right position, which I thought was really interesting and something I was super keen to try out. I also then realized the effect that this could have for people who are first learning to position themselves correctly for the nose ride on a wave, because this is one of the biggest troubles I see people facing when they're learning to nose ride, where they might be getting their cross-stepping down pat, but their positioning on the wave isn't correct, and so they can't put themselves in the right spot to see the success. I'll show you examples of how it's done, as well as the difficulties that can come into play when we don't use this technique. I'll then run through a step-by-step process of how to integrate this into your surfing. Let's get into it. So for today's session, despite the wind coming up a little bit, the waves actually looked sick for what I wanted to try. I could see some nice critical sections for the hang 10s, and I was really keen to give this strategy a go. So the first few waves, I'm using the standard takeoff to nose ride approach. As you can see here, there are two things that can happen in this scenario. In steeper sections, I'm coming to the bottom of the wave and using the bottom curve to complete a timely bottom turn. But what I didn't realize for so long here is that I was missing one of the most critical sections to nose ride when I was doing this. By elongating that takeoff, I was bottom turning and only coming up to the top of the wave after the bottom turn, which for the most part is too late, missing a good span of the wave where the lip is critical and I could be nose riding. The other thing that can happen when the wave is flatter from the takeoff is that I pop up and then try to position myself for the nose ride whilst I'm on my feet. The problem here for many people is that this is where we really struggle to find the right position. Unless we're extremely delicate on our feet and have a great feel for the board and the intricacies of the subtle changes in foot positioning that's required to position correctly, this might catch a lot of people off guard where they haven't positioned their board correctly because of this. Often, we don't set up the board correctly, so it might not be on the right angle, or we may be wobbling from rail to rail, and therefore the board doesn't get locked into its line appropriately to set up well for the nose ride.
So that was me trying that initial approach, and sure, I think I got some good nose rides, but I do find that there's so much that needs to go in our favour if we're going to try that approach. Those little intricacies and foot movements to get yourself in the right position can be tricky, and we do lose a little bit of a nose ride at the start of the wave especially. So what I'm going to try now is the second approach, where I'm in the prone position for a longer period. I'm actually waiting for the wave to eventuate before I go to the nose and before I pop up. I find this is really helpful to maneuver the rails appropriately, to set our line early, nice and easy, so that all we need to do is pop up and head to the nose. So let's get into that now.
So the first thing about this new technique is we need to be more patient for the pop-up. We don't necessarily need to jump to our feet as soon as we feel the wave catch us. This doesn't mean paddling for the wave less and missing the wave altogether. It just means that once we have the wave speed, let's put our energy towards positioning ourselves correctly on the wave from the prone position. I found that by using this method, it's far easier to reliably set your line for the Noseride, which means having the board tracking on the correct angle and being in a set and stable position. As opposed to still being in the middle of a turn as you're stepping forwards, this decreases the unsteadiness and makes life so much easier. You can see in these examples, I'm maneuvering the board with my hands, and then when the line is set, I have the wave steepening up and I'm either at or just before the critical Noseride section. I can then easily pop up and start walking. The wave won't always be speeding down the line in front of you though. Sometimes, we'll need to engage a quick turn after a fade, which might be useful to put yourself in a critical position on the wave. This method is harder to set your line, but there's another crucial ingredient to this method I haven't yet touched on to make your life so much easier, and this is by not dropping low. By staying high in the wave, we maximise our time in the part of the wave we need to be in order to noseride, and take a shortcut to the pocket rather than the long way around via a big bottom turn, which as we saw at the start, it often leads to missing great critical noseride sections. So let's run through each step quickly to show you how you're going to apply this to your own surfing. Step 1 is when you're catching the wave, don't pop up right away. The key to this method is staying prone in a cobra position and using your hands on the rail to maneuver yourself to the right part of the wave, and the goal being to set yourself into the critical part of the wave and ideally having your line set for the noseride before you pop up. As we spoke about, there will be some instances where a faded takeoff and a quick whip around is necessary. This is more advanced but very effective. Step 2 is staying high on the wave. This will save time and reduce the room for error with regards to positioning correctly on the wave. Step 3 is the fun part, where we get to walk to the nose. By this time, we've done the hard work already. From here, you should be on the perfect spot on the wave for the noseride before you've even popped up.
Alrighty, so I just felt like that approach was a lot better, especially for surfers who are beginning to learn to lock in really critically on the nose and get consistency with that. I think it's a really nice setup and approach. Being able to modify the weight on your rails and set up that line for the noseride early on whilst you're still in that position on your belly, I think it's just a really, really good game changer. I think everyone should use that. I think it's something I'm going to use a little bit more as well.
Alrighty guys, so we've got the latest set of orders for the Glide Surf Collective product here. I thought I'd show you guys a little bit about what we have in at the moment. So for the shirts here, we do have the shirts in the black, navy, coal, natural and the white. And then we also have the hoodies, and the hoodies, the collection's in the navy, the black and the white there as well. Now it is a one-man show at the moment, so I'm packing and sending everything off from home. So what we're doing at the moment is fortnightly orders, and I'll be sending them off every second Monday. So if you did want to get some product for the next shipment, then make sure you hit the link down below and check out some of the stuff. We'll see you guys soon.